Hey everyone, and welcome back to another financial check-in video. Today is the last day of the entire year, so that means it's time to look over our December financials for the month and then also do sort of like an end of year wrap to see how much we made, how much we spent, and how much we saved for the entirety of 2025. But yeah, like every other financial check-in, we'll go over our cash flow for the month. Then we'll go over our net worth balance, and then we'll take a look at some of our yearly totals and then compare that to last year to see how we fared. And apologies if I sound sick. I am currently sick, recovering from the flu. Yeah, I hope you guys have been having a wonderful holiday so far. For some context, if you're new here, my name is Amanda. I am 29 years old and my husband's 5 years older than me. We both work in tech. We make about a combined household income of almost 300K gross, and I'm documenting our journey to reach financial independence. So if that interests you, feel free to hit that subscribe button to follow along. And without further ado, let's get into our December cash flow in Monarch. So this is our December cash flow. For the month of December, we made a total of $15,000 in salary income, and 66% of the income came from my husband's paycheck, 27% from my paycheck. And you'll notice that our salary income is higher this month, mainly because my husband is no longer paying Social Security payments since he maxed it out for the year already. So he's getting some additional take-home pay, and then also he's not contributing to his 401k, I think, this last paycheck or something along those lines. So that's our W-2 salary income. For our non-salary income, we made about $998. $800 of that came from my husband. I think he didn't win his NFL fantasy league, but I think he placed like second or something like that, so he got $800 from that. He did put $200 in, so we made, I guess, a profit of $600. And then we also made some interest income, $198 there, and that's just from our high yield savings accounts in Wealthfront. So yeah, that's it for our income. Pretty simple, like always. And then moving on to our expenses here. So this month, our highest expense bill was our property tax, which came to $24.51. And our property taxes are paid twice a year in lump sum payments. So the second payment of this year was due in December, so we paid that. And then we also paid $125 in financial fees. This is just credit card annual fees. And then another $30 for a wire transfer that we had to do since we made our third earnest payment for our land this month. So more on that later. And then for our monthly bills, we spent $1,130 on our dogs this month, and about like $400-500 is for boarding costs since we did travel last week during the Christmas holiday week. So we paid, I think, 5 nights of boarding for one of our dogs, and then our other dog, Chewy, he stayed with my husband's parents. The reason why we don't have them take care of both of them is because they already have a dog. So taking care of 3 dogs might be too much for them. We just don't want them to feel stressed or anything. So they just take care of one of our dogs. And then we paid $397 for our HOA. That's just our monthly fee. So I think a few months back, I was talking about a roof replacement that our HOA was implementing for all the residents here in our townhome complex. They finally gave us a cost of how much it is going to be for every household, and we were told that it's going to cost us around $17,000. They haven't even started the project on our roof yet, and I think at the beginning they were saying it was going to be, you would have to pay at the end of the project. So now they told us that the payment is due February 1st. So we have to give them either $17K, I think, by February 1st, or we have to start giving them monthly payments, like a payment plan for people who couldn't pay it off in full. We're going to do the full payment option. We don't want to pay any interest. So that's going to be quite a big hit in February, $17K to our HOA. That's upcoming expense that we have planned for. But yes, it still hurts to think about. There's that. And then for our next expense here is our phone bill, $148 for our phone, $142 for electricity, $71 for internet, and then $33 for subscriptions. So I already went through all our subscriptions for the year, and I've canceled a bunch that we don't use anymore. So I do that like at the end of the year usually to see if we still use certain subscriptions. And if we do, then we'll obviously keep using them, paying for them. But the ones we don't use, we would just cancel. Using Monarch has been really great for that because you can see all your subscriptions that you pay for in one place, and you can like search when you made those payments, if it's like across different credit cards. So that's been super helpful. And our next category of spending here is on food. So we spent quite a bit on food, about $17.68 on food, and of that $13.08 is from restaurants and dining out, and then $460 from groceries. This month, we didn't even bother with cooking that much really. We just bought groceries so we can make lunch when we work, and then I think we basically ate out almost every day or ate leftovers or something from dining out. And then in terms of guilt-free spending, we spent $712, $248 on gifts, and that's because I visited my family in the Grand Cayman. I bought my niece and nephew gifts, and I bought my family some gifts. $248 there, and then $238 for entertainment and games, $132 for travel and vacation, and this was just paying for some like miscellaneous travel expenses. We paid our flight with points, so that was only like a few dollars, and then we stayed with my sister, so I didn't have to pay for any accommodation. So luckily we didn't spend too much on travel. And then $92 for shopping, and that's it for guilt-free spending. For our car and home, spent $57 on gas, $45 on our home insurance, and then $987 on household essentials. And then this last category here, just health and dental, we spent $13 on medical, and that's just I think some cough drops and some medication for me to recover from the flu. And that's basically all our expenses for the month of December. So in total we made $16,006, and then we spent $7,106. So that's a total net income of $8,899, which is a 55.6% savings rate. This is an after-tax savings rate because the income that's shown here is all after taxes. So this doesn't include our 401k contributions. Our savings rate is probably higher than 55%. So yeah, that's our December cash flow. Let's move on over to the accounts page. So according to Monarch, current net worth minus our current home is $832,357, which is a 9.3K increase from last month. And nothing too major happened. I think the stock market might have gone up and down here. And then I think this dip here was me transferring money to my traditional IRA account in preparation to do the backdoor Roth at the beginning of January. So I'm actually going to be making another video going through the backdoor conversion again because I think some things changed in Schwab. So I'm going to make an updated video on that. So stay tuned. Credit cards, like always, we pay this off in full every month, but we spend on our credit card, so we'll always have a balance here. Investments were at $682,953, and that's up about 10K from last month. And then our cash went down quite significantly to $33,977. And that is because we made the third earnest payment for our land, and that 60K basically just transferred over to real estate. So now our land is worth 122. Our cash reserves are starting to get a lot lower than what it was a few months back. About 15K is going to go into our Roths in January, and then 17K needs to be paid for our HOA in February. This 33K is basically going to be close to nothing soon, but we're going to start building our cash reserves again to build up our emergency funds, because not having any cash is actually not very good. So that is going to be one of our goals for 2026, to rebuild our emergency fund, which I'm also going to make another video on in a few days from now once I feel a little bit better. So that's our account balances in Monarch, but Monarch doesn't always update all our account balances on the last day because transactions are still pending. So let's head on over to our Google Sheet to update our net worth there. Oh, before we head on over there, I wanted to actually show you guys this report. I'm using this new extension for Monarch. So this isn't part of Monarch. It's like a third-party person that created this extension on top of Monarch. And I thought that this specific tab was pretty cool. It's called the Trends tab under the Reports section. What I wanted to just take a look at is how much we made and spent in 2025 in comparison to the past years. In 2025, we made a total of $190,914 in take-home pay or take-home money that hit our bank accounts. And that is up about 10K from last year, which is always a good sign. Just disregard 2022 because it's missing a bunch of data for that year. But we have 3 complete years in Monarch so far that we can compare to. So 2023 to 2025. And you can see we are slowly trending upwards in terms of income, which is great. Obviously to combat inflation, but also generating more money is always great. I'm not ever going to complain about that. In terms of spending, we spent actually only 80.8K this year, which is significantly less from last year, about 40K less, and also less than 2023, where we spent 95K. So I'm really happy with our spending this year, despite making some pretty big purchases this year, like gifting my parents and my husband purchasing a new computer. Those expenses are part of guilt-free spending, so we don't feel any guilt from making those purchases or giving those gifts. But if we minus all the guilt-free spending, I think we would spend way less than 80K if we really had to. But I mean, that's not fun, right? Like, you have to use your money to enjoy life now as well, not just save it for the future, because, tomorrow isn't always guaranteed. And yeah, it's okay to enjoy life now, but then also plan for the future as well. So it's definitely a balancing act that I've tried to learn over the years. I think in past years, maybe we spent a little bit too much. We didn't invest as much, but now we're shifting gears where we're investing a bit more, spending a bit less, but we're still spending enough where we don't feel miserable. So in 2025, we spent the most in restaurants, shopping, on our dogs, gifts, HOA, groceries, and taxes. Like, those are our top spending. And the reason why last year was so high, one of our dogs had surgery, emergency surgery, so that cost us a pretty penny. Last year we spent 25K on our dogs, but definitely worth every penny. I don't regret spending it, and now we have pet insurance, so we don't have to pay out of pocket moving forward. But yes, it was definitely a stressful time to have to make that payment, but we were also very grateful that we had the cash flow to be able to pay for it at the time. Luckily, we only spent $9,000 on them this year, so much less compared to last year, but probably still a lot in comparison to what people normally spend on their pets. And honestly, I don't mind. Like, I love my pets. I want to spend money on them. Excuse me. So yes, this is a cost that we're willing to pay. We definitely spent more on gifts this year, which, again, it was mainly for my parents, and everything else stayed relatively the same. I'm trying to look to see what went down. We did pay less in taxes this year. I don't know the reason why, but yes, paying less taxes is always nice too. We spent less on vacation this year. We only traveled to Toronto. Oh, and then I also paid for a trip next year. So this expense is actually, should be less technically for what we spent, but I prepaid for a trip for next year. So there's that. And I try to see, everything else is pretty much the same. Home improvement here is much less because last year our heater broke. So we had to replace our heater last year, which is why the expense there was so much. Our internet went down. Auto maintenance, we also had to get something repaired for our car last year, which is why we paid quite a bit last year in comparison. And household essentials, I didn't have this category until this last year, so that's why it's more than the previous year. And then fitness is a lot lower this year because last year I prepaid for my Pilates classes. So I did not renew my contract this year, so we're just sticking with the regular gym because yeah, $4,000 is quite a lot for Pilates. Last year we had loan repayment. That was just to pay the remainder of my condo back in Toronto, but I no longer own that condo. I gave it back to my parents. Yeah, those are the important transactions that I wanted to highlight in comparison to last year. But it's really interesting to see our spending go down. Like, I would assume that because our income goes up, our spending also goes up, but yeah, last year was a bit of an anomaly. We had too many emergency expenses last year that we had to pay. So this year, I think we made up for it, balanced it out a little bit by only spending $80K. I think for next year, we probably want to aim for the same ballpark of $80K. As long as it's below $100K, I'm satisfied with. But now after spending $80K in a year, I feel like spending $100K would be too much. Like, we'd just be wasting money at that point. So very cool graph to see. And some just interesting facts. Obviously, highest income was with Charles's paycheck in 2025. He made a total of $117K in take home. Our highest expense was with loan repayment in 2023, and that is from this. And that is because we renovated our townhome and we took out a loan, a $30K loan. We paid it all back within a year because we had a promotional interest-free 18-month period. So we just paid it back within those 18 months without any interest. So that was really nice. Yeah, that's our cash flow for the year of 2025. Hopefully going into 2026, we make more money and we spend less, or we spend about the same. That's the goal. Okay, now let's move on over to the financial assets. For December, we ended the month with $40,427 in cash. That's because we made our third earnest payment for our land. And you can see it's slowly going down and it will probably reach very close to zero in February. But hopefully we are able to replenish our savings a little bit with our paychecks in the next 2 months. If the worst case scenario happens, we both get laid off in the next 2 months, then our backup plan is probably to just use our taxable accounts if that were to happen. Like, we would liquidate some of our holdings to survive, right? Hopefully that doesn't happen. And then in terms of retirement funds, we ended with $522,611. For our retirement accounts, we're both maxing out our 401ks. My husband has an HSA account that he contributes for both of us, but next year he's actually no longer contributing to it because we're changing our health insurance plans. It's basically the one that doesn't offer HSAs anymore. So we've had 1 full year of contributing to HSA, and then we will no longer have it next year. And then in terms of taxable accounts, we ended with $118,231. And this is just from my $500 monthly contribution. For crypto, it's down again at $42,187, and I've just been doing weekly buys. I'm actually changing that for 2026. I'm stopping my weekly contribution because we're already at a 5 to 6% allocation, and I think I'm happy with where it is right now. I'm probably gonna save a bit of cash because we're getting a little bit low on cash in the upcoming months. It's better to have an emergency fund than to buy crypto. So there's that. And then real estate has gone up to $122,000, and that's because we made our third earnest payment. So we ended December, or 2025, with $845,458, which is a 1.83% increase from last month, which is 15.1K. We started at the year with 616K and ended with 845K, which is about like 230K increase. Crazy to think it's gone up that much in just a year. But if we look back on just another year ago, 2 years ago basically, we've doubled our net worth, which is crazy because doesn't it take like 7 years to double? Well, I guess 7 years if you don't contribute, right, to double. But we've been contributing quite a bit this year, so that's obviously helped. And the market has been on a huge bull run for quite a while now. So that's also a large contributor. In terms of asset allocation, we are now at 61.8% in retirement funds, 14% in taxable, 5% in crypto, 14.4% in real estate, and then 4.8% in cash. So our cash reserves are actually the lowest portion of our net worth now, which is crazy because it just basically shifted over to real estate. So definitely something that we're really happy about in terms of the decision that we made. But now I'd have a little bit of anxiety thinking about how little cash we will be having soon. So definitely going to be more vigilant in what I spend in the next 2 months, just so we have some extra cushion so we're not sitting at zero. But yeah, that's our asset allocation. In December, we contributed $5,156 in total, which brings our 2025 total to $123K and our lifetime total to $407K contributed. If we compare it to past years, last year we contributed $95K and we contributed basically $28K more compared to last year. And then last year was also basically double from the previous year. So slowly we've been increasing our contributions over time. I know for 2026, we probably won't be able to contribute as much as this year because one, we're trying to build our emergency fund again. And then two, we'll probably have to start making monthly payments to pay off our land. So that's going to change things up quite a bit once we close on it. So stay tuned to see how that works out. I think in terms of projected contributions next year, we'll at least contribute to the max to our 401k and our Roth IRAs. So that's what, like 50, 60K there already. So ballpark, I think we'll at least contribute 80 to 90K. So maybe closer to 2024 rates. I mean, we'll see. Maybe we get huge bonuses next year and we'll just invest all of it. That's our total contributions. And then if we go back to our combined tab here, this is our net worth chart. So of our net worth, 723K is liquid, and that's just these four columns combined. And then our current home, that's where we live currently. This is like the value of our current home. And then our land. Our total net worth, including our real estate, is 1.2 million. I don't like tracking our total net worth because we can't eat our home, as people like to say. I mean, technically you could, but not really. Right? Yeah, that's our net worth now. And then in terms of where we ended for the year, 845K, which is actually like 90K above what I projected our end of year amount to be. And these amounts are just pulling from projection lab that I took. And I wonder if it's because it's using current, like today's currency, the future's currency, because of inflation, right? 3 million today will not cost 3 million in the future. So I wonder if my projection would be off since the amount today. Anyway, I think I'm making it more complicated than it is. I should just be happy that we went way over our projection. We went up 43.33% from last year, which was a 255K increase, which is crazy. I don't know our contribution rate yet because I haven't filed our taxes for this year, but I will know in a few months from now when I do our tax return, I think in February. So I'll have our gross income there, but if I had to guess, it would probably be like 40% contribution rate this year. That's just my guess. And then taking a look at the contributions graph here, I actually had to edit this graph because it wasn't purely just market gains that was left over. It's market gains and whatever we had in cash that we didn't invest, because even though we've invested 123K, we didn't spend the remainder of our money. Like, we still kept some in cash reserves, or we spent it, right? So we either spent it or we saved it in cash. So the market gains part is market gains and cash. For 2025, we contributed 123K, and then we gained 132K in market gains plus cash. It's really cool to see this graph here, seeing the jump, but also to see the comparison of how much money you're putting in versus how much the market is doing the work to increase your net worth. So right now it's sort of like a 50-50 split kind of situation where we're putting in 50% of the effort and the market's increasing it by the other 50%. I don't know if that makes sense. Most of this increase in the past couple of years is attributed to the fact that we've been contributing more to our accounts. I'm already feeling the snowball effects of that since we were able to basically double our net worth in 2 years, which is crazy. And based on this trajectory, I feel like we'll blow this projection out of the water next year as long as the markets continue to do well, and we may even end the year with 1 million. And again, this net worth is from our liquid plus our most recent real estate. So I'm tracking a lot of different numbers here, so hopefully it's not too confusing. That's our financial assets Google Sheet. I do have one more thing that I want to go over. It's this new portfolio tracker, which I'd love to give a shout out to STEM Girl Budgeting. She showcased this in one of her videos and I thought it was really cool. I'll link her channel and then the person that made this in the description down below as well, if you want to check it out. But basically, you input all your accounts and then you input all your holdings, and then it creates this cool chart sort of visualizing and breaking down your portfolio, and it updates like every 20 minutes or something like that. So it's pretty live data if you are really into that. This is not something I look at every day, but it's cool to visualize this. You can see a breakdown of all of our accounts. Obviously, Charles is in the lead with his 401k, and he probably will be for the rest of our lives. You can group them by account. You can group it by account type. So most of our money's in our 401k, our Roth. It's really cool to see just a breakdown of where your money is, because obviously I'm tracking all our retirement funds, but this includes our 401k, our Roth and HSA, but this allows us to break it down even further than that. So if we want to get really granular and take a look at that. And then they have other options like institution, and then by owner, so you can see how much you own versus your partner. And yeah, my husband obviously has double what I have because he had a head start and he earns much more. I would say I am very proud of what I have now, considering how much I make and how little time I've been investing for. But in the end, it doesn't matter because you and your partner, you're a team, you're combined anyway, so what's mine is his and what's his is mine. It's just cool to see like a scoreboard, I guess. But yeah, that's owner type, and then this is tax type. Not something that I'm super interested in now, but I think as we get closer to actual retirement, we'll probably have to assess this more and see, like which accounts we want to draw down from first. Maybe obviously the first one being a taxable account, and then how we can access our tax-free or tax-deferred accounts in the future. That's account dashboard, and then there's like an allocation dashboard. This was actually quite eye-opening because obviously across all my accounts, we're all just invested in the S&P 500 for the most part. And I haven't really thought much about diversifying. I do use a robo-advisor that has a pretty well-diversified portfolio for me, and I prefer someone else to do that than me to do it myself. And I know it's not that difficult. You can just do like a 70-30 international US split or like 80-20 US split. I've just been like basically almost all in on US large cap stocks, and looking at the actual breakdown of how much we own of every asset is definitely eye-opening and makes me realize that we probably should be investing more in international given how little we are in it right now. I think we're only about like 2% in total, and then like 80% basically S&P 500. We are very heavily concentrated in the S&P 500, so it's very risky, I'd say. But we are young, so we do have 10 plus year time horizon, so it's not that big of a deal. But I think I do want to allocate maybe at least 10% of what we have in US large cap into international. But instead of selling, I think we'll just buy more. I haven't thought of the game plan yet to reallocate. This was definitely an eye-opener, and I'd highly recommend you going through this to see your breakdown. Maybe you're too heavily concentrated in something. And also another reason why I decided to stop purchasing crypto on a weekly basis, because we're already at like a 6% allocation, and I think I need to buy more international stocks in comparison to crypto. Yes, highly recommend you checking this out. You can also group this by category. So we are 87% US stocks, 3.5% bonds. Yeah, so around like only 2.4% international. So that is kind of embarrassing, honestly. I would want this to be at least 10 to 20%. Alternatives is the crypto section. I want to keep that around like 5%. And the US stocks, I'm okay with around like 70 to 80% of our portfolio. And then high level, also you see stocks, 90% stocks, 3.5% bonds, and then other. That's a breakdown of our portfolio. If you track your finances, what was something that surprised you about your yearly expenses this year, or something that just surprised you in general? I'm curious to hear. That's basically it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. I do have some upcoming videos planned in the next week or so, so feel free to subscribe to follow along. I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season. Hope you guys are enjoying the rest of your New Year's Eve, and I will see you in the new year. Take care. Bye-bye.